21 aircraft have been involved in the search, covering 10,000 nautical square miles. Let's go to the latest with Colonel Paul Edwards, who's a Defence and Aviation Analyst and former Chief of Staff for Army Aviation and former Defence Advisor to the British High Commission, based in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. He joins me from Andover in Hampshire, and very good to talk to you. So we are talking about, even though the wreckage has been identified now, we're still talking about a huge area that has to be searched.
Dermot, good afternoon. Yes, we are. But at least we've managed to focus the area of the search with the tragic recovery of 40 or more bodies. That at least enables the relatives to know what happened to their loved ones, if not how it happened. But there's other evidence as well. We now have evidence that from the debris, which would, if tracked back, give us a rough order location of where the main body of the aircraft or the debris field might be. Of course, we're talking about the Java Sea, and at this time of the year, there is a flow of the currents generally to the west. They tend to reverse in the spring. And by applying the location of the debris and where they're picking up bodies, applying the wind, and then tracking back over the time that they've been moving, they should be able to focus on that site. In fact, I can tell you that they really have already done those calculations, because the search area has already refocused on a much smaller area, Dermot.
I see. So what you're saying is the lighter stuff, which is floating, of course, currents and wind and weather conditions can move those around, but the heavier stuff, which needs to be found to, first of all, get those flight recorders and more of the superstructure of the aircraft, that will have sank. And they think they found that, or they know they found that?
Well, they've certainly seen something in the water. And we've heard reports today of some sort of shadowy figure underneath the surface, which may or may not be that. And of course, their main effort, apart from recovering the bodies for the benefit of the relatives, and quite rightly so, will in parallel be tracking back and trying to find the main debris site. And obviously, that is most likely to be where the cockpit voice recorder and the flight data recorder are. And obviously, they're very, very key parts of this jigsaw puzzle in terms of evidence.
And Colonel Edwards, share with us, given your knowledge, your intimate knowledge of the region, share with us your knowledge about the weather systems, this weather system that we hear the pilots were trying to navigate their way over, it seems. It seems like some pretty fierce systems in play there.
Well, as you're probably aware, the equator runs just south of Singapore and pretty much through the island of Borneo, which is just on the northeastern area of the place that we're searching. There is an intercontinental flow of air masses at this time of the year. The weather can get very bad indeed. And looking at the radar shots of the weather at the time that the aircraft went down, there was very severe activity coming out of cumulonimbus cloud. And one in particular storm cell, which appeared to be pretty much on track or just right of track of the aircraft. Now, as your forecasters will be able to tell you, there are massive up and down drafts and great energy within clouds like that. And importantly, apart from up and down drafts, there's a lot of ice within those storm cells that can form very rapidly and can affect the instruments as well, or the feed into the instruments. And one particular case in question, which is can always happen, is the formation of ice over the aerodynamic surfaces, but also over the pitot tubes, which can then affect two critical flight instruments, and that is the altimeter giving you the height and the airspeed indicator.
And interesting you refer to that, because that would be a repeat or something similar to what happened to the Air France flight from Brazil 7 years ago, which went down in the Atlantic.
Absolutely right, Dermot. Now, there's more than one pitot tube feeding into more than one set of flight instruments, and they are heated. But such are the effects within storm cells such as this, and the rapid formation of ice, that clearly even that can be overcome.
But one modifications made after that problem was identified. That was an Airbus 777, wasn't it? No.
Yes, I think that lessons are learned from every single incident. And even though MH370 still hasn't been found yet, there are lessons learned from that which are being applied. But at the end of the day, I'm afraid Mother Nature always tends to shock us in circumstances such as this. And if indeed it was the weather, and we don't know that until we have the evidence, then we could have another example of that.
I mean, but, you know, Mother Nature and all that, so there were other planes flying around at the time. We understand that was one of the reasons why this aircraft was not allowed to climb to a greater height. And, you know, we're all told that modern aircraft are over-engineered, that they can withstand really severe stuff. They can withstand multiple lightning strikes, hurricanes and things like that.
They can, but those other aircraft were clearly moving around the area, not necessarily inside a significant storm cell. But as I said, we won't know that until we actually have more evidence, and ideally the flight data recorder and the cockpit voice recorder. That will tell us exactly what happened.
Indeed. OK, we await that. Colonel Edwards, thank you very much indeed. Very good to talk to you. Colonel Paul Edwards.